So we are back for the latest episode of the Sorare CSC, the Celtic Supporters Club. This week it's just me, Quinny, and Mark Patrick Rare. This week, Mark, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, mate. How's things?
All good, mate. All good. Looking forward very much to the weekend. Huge game ahead, and we had a pretty decent result at the weekend. Although the scoreline maybe wasn't as bold as I thought it or hoped it might have been. But you know, a good win all the same at the weekend. So yeah, I'm in good spirits, mate.
Yeah, I think it was what was it? Something like 74 possession, 28 shots, 9 on target. You get those games. I think sometimes you just winning is what you need. You know, obviously when from a Sorare standpoint, you're frustrated because you're not getting the scores that you really want from some of those guys. Kyogo was that moment when Maeda's done that beautiful run down the left-hand side, skipped past his defender, it's just like, oh, this is it. This is it. Puts it on a plate for Kyogo, and Kyogo, I can't believe he's missed that, Connie. I was just going mental because I had Kyogo and Maeda in my teams. That would have been perfect, but it didn't happen. But it got the job done, and it was a fairly unconvincing. It certainly wasn't the inspiring Celtic that we've seen of late, but I mean that's a good sign, isn't it? When you're still winning in those matches.
Yeah, it was heart and mouth stuff with. I've always get Daizen and Kyogo running together as well. So when you see them breaking and linking up, your heart's always in your mouth. You're about to get double decisive with it. But Kyogo loves a BCM. Picked up 2 in that match. Finished the game with 28 points. So it's kind of old duck or nae dinner. I think that's the saying with Kyogo, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a tough one. I mean, see the thing, normally in those specific positions where he has the touch, see if he's to jump onto it and make and finish with one touch. Normally there's a chance that he misses them, but see when he has the one touch to compose himself and then second touch to shoot, he normally is emphatic at finishing them. So I was really surprised, and I was also surprised that he didn't put it in the left corner.
Yep.
Instead of trying to curve it. I don't even know what he was trying, but he failed anyway, sadly.
Yeah, Daizen Maeda built up a good 8A in this game, 16 points. If he got a decisive, then that's the thing you get with a Daizen Maeda on the wing is, you know, if he gets one decisive action, he then walks in with a 75, 80, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I went pretty heavy-handed on Maeda last week and supported him, and I mean, you can see
And a
why.
BCM.
He's undroppable. He's so effective in that position, and he just goes straight at his man every time. And I think, you know, without jumping ahead to the Rangers game, that's the sort of game where, you know, guys like him are really good. Great to see Tomoki Awata, a guy that we all rate highly, actually getting on the pitch. I thought personally he was our best player. He looked like he was really hungry, had a point to prove, and looked like he wanted to take his chance. The thing I liked about him is there was no airs and graces. He went, chased down possession all over the pitch, and as soon as he won the ball back, he just passed it to a man in space straight away. Really simple football, but effective when it's played like that. And I know that, don't know if you have Starfield and you're so rare, but I am one of the ones that went all in on Starfield. And whilst I don't particularly rate him highly as a footballer, if I'm entirely honest, his passing at times was hard to watch in that match. So it's quite refreshing that you have someone who comes in and does the difficult job and the easy job well and efficiently. I thought O'Reilly was okay. Fans are getting on his back now a bit. I didn't think he really deserved much of that. Jota was, I mean, by all accounts and Sorare, it looks like Jota's had the game of his life in that match. But realistically, he scored a penalty and he's had an assist, which is really lucky that I think it was Greg Taylor touched it prior to Bernabe smashing an absolute wonder goal into the net from outside the box. But yeah, job done.
Yeah, I think a few people, when I seen the celebrations going, I think somebody thought maybe O got the assist or Tomoki. I can't remember who it was, but when you watch the celebrations, somebody looks like they were celebrating the assist, but they actually clean dummied it. So it is Jota that gets credited with the assist, you know. So yeah, 82 points. He was the best scorer on the pitch itself. Just behind him, Carter Vickers, and then just behind him, Hart and Taylor, who left the pitch injured. But I do agree with you, Iwata was very notable. And I think one of the things we noticed in this game, like it's the first time we've seen Iwata and and McGregor play, Mark. You know, and it's something we've all been kind of waiting for since Iwata came in, and it's always been the chat of, oh, we'll move to a double pivot, you know. And like for me and for anyone who watches, like Ange, as you guys know especially, like he is set in his system. The players that come in just bring their individual part to whatever the system is, and the manager trusts him to make judgment calls in the game. Do they need to stay a bit more defensive and compact? Do they have the space to move forward and possession and all the rest of it? And it felt like McGregor probably wasn't really that comfortable or that used to being in a position of comfort with having somebody doing the job for him. Normally, you know, if he is in that position, it's been maybe Moy was playing there for a couple of games. When Abelgard came in once or twice, McCarthy for a minute here or there, little things like that. So, you know, it was nice to see. Iwata was very notable, but I think again, I caught a little bit of post-match and it was a wee bit of, oh, don't feel that McGregor done much, or don't feel McGregor was that good in that position compared to where he is at the 6. But for me, I think it's just a wee bit of, you know, just getting gelled in that position, because I think McGregor could do that job amazingly well for us, particularly if Hatate's injury is maybe more than a game or so, depending on who you believe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not up to speed on the Hatate rumours, so spill the beans on that. But I mean, I think McGregor, I think he just has games like that, where, you know, he doesn't get involved as, you know, as intricately as maybe the game prior. I don't take that as a negative. I think provided the game flow suits the team and, you know, we're working well going forward. I mean, see, ultimately, like, as you know, and because in Sorare stats, and also in, you know, all these different stats websites, you can be one duel or tackle away from having a great score, you know, like at any given time. So I just feel that McGregor done an effective job. It wasn't anything that you would say wow about, but I'm sure in the next game he will have a performance that we'll say wow about. But yeah, I mean, I think in midfield was the most noticeable part. I thought O'Reilly in the first half in particular, he looked really off it. He looked really, really off it, and I felt sorry for him because I could sense the fans getting on his back and already, you know, having some real negativity. And I'd seen some of the comments get him off at half time, and I just and yeah, I think that he's somebody that isn't a bad player overnight. I think he's a really, really talented player that just needs to be persisted with, and just keep coaching him. You know, he's got really, really good attributes. As I said before, I would be working on distribution and his passing more personally, because I can see that's why he's not releasing the ball to the right people as quick as he should be, in the way that, for example, Moy does, Hatate does. But yeah, we won over the piece probably quite comprehensively. Penalty was, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what a penalty is anymore, really, with these handballs.
It's definitely a penalty when you look at the handballs we've had given against us. Like, there's
totally odd.
Like, I don't give a fuck at this point.
No, I mean, I mean, some of the decisions that Celtic have had against us this season have been just odd, and I think, without turning it into the Celtic conspiracy show, there's been some outrageous decisions that we've had against us, and yeah, so you kind of come to, you know, to get used to that. However, that being said, it looked a bit odd to me, as a penalty decision, and I don't think it affected the outcome of the game. I think we would have eventually scored even if that wasn't a penalty. I think that we would have eventually won that match 1-2-0 anyhow, because Ross County just would never have scored in a million years in that game. But yeah, we go again.
We do. And coming out of that game, we do have, there's some of the questions you kind of raised there. The subs all did pretty well when they came on. I thought, Turnbull had his shot from 30 yards that he likes to have. Haksabanovic was nippy and getting involved. But, very good taking the ball down long from Hart, could do a wee spin and a turn. And, he's starting to show some glimmers, of what he can add, so... a lot of headaches coming into the weekend, but some real fitness concerns as well. Hatate, like I was saying there, it depends on who you listen to. I was searching it mad last night, and Sutton's coming out with quotes, Charlie Nicholas is coming out with quotes, all the favourites of the day of people what they've heard and all the rest of it. So it's one of those ones, but where we've not heard anything from Celtic, but we know the manager will probably, if he's fine, the manager will probably be quite happy for everyone to think that he's not fine, so I don't think we're going to... I'm nervous for Hatate this weekend from a Sorare perspective. I'm not confident, as we are talking right now, that I can play him anywhere, so...
So when was that game that was the game against Hibs, so that was on the 18th, so you're talking, what? So that's 3 weeks from that game until the Old Firm game, or the Glasgow derby. So you're about, so almost, I think, is it 3 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
So we can't be far off 3 weeks. For a hamstring injury, that kind of feels to me like that's very doable for him.
Yeah.
By the way, see, forgetting, I think Ange would take Hatate at 75% at this point.
Oh, really?
Oh, that midfield, come on. Without Hatate, just looked like it. You were just like, oh, it was... I mean, in terms of Iwata winning the ball and distributing it, it was great. He done his job brilliant. McGregor just kind of had a loose roaming, but we're talking about the dynamic forward going creativity, that part of the midfield that's going to actually, the inventiveness, the spark that's going to create the goals and the chances and supply the forward line. The first half, I mean, Kyogo just barely didn't even touch the ball. There was really nothing going into him, and a lot of that was just the balls just weren't really flowing through the midfield. I mean, for the majority of that first half, all I remember is Carter Vickers pushed up to about 2/3 of the pitch, right into their final third, making passes. That's, that was their creative spark, and it's the same on the left with Starfelt.
Yeah.
I think when you're trying to break down teams, you're really looking for, your midfielders to be carrying the ball, your creative midfielders to be carrying it, committing defenders, pushing them, dribbling, making that either needle pass, that's something a little bit more different than pushing up and then put, Carter Vickers or Starfelt laying the ball out of the wide areas. It's a little bit, one-dimensional, two-dimensional. So I think Hatate's going to change that for sure. And I think against Rangers, we would need him, in my opinion. I think absolutely we would need him. So I think, and this is based on nothing other than common sense, I don't know that I don't have any intel on Hatate. I will hopefully get some before the game week kicks off on Friday at 3 p.m. But just logically, 3 weeks to recover from a hamstring, I think is reasonable for him to be able to play. But as I say, I would take him at 75% for that game. I think I just think that you need that in that midfield. Probably it would be Iwata that would come out because he would want to keep O'Reilly in there, or if Moy comes back, I don't know. I've heard even less about Moy's position, but I'm sure we'll see in the training photos later in the week. So yeah, my team would be based, and I'm pretty sure yours as well, like based on the fitness of those two. By the way, I take it Taylor's was just an impact, a quick knock, and I thought that, so he'll be fine.
That's the chat. Yeah, now what you're saying there, I think Ange plays Taylor at 60% against Rangers. I don't think you can play with confidence Bernabei from the start, against Tavernier, Cantwell, Tillman. They would just bank on it. If they see Bernabei start, they would probably just put 2 guys on him and go for it,
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you look at, what was it, Sakala that played in the final, I think I'd be, I mean, I've seen bits and bobs of Rangers lately, and I think Tillman could cause us problems. I think we really need to be smart about, I don't know if he's coming in off the right or the left. He's bang on form, and granted he's punishing weaker opposition. I think if we give him space, he could cause us real problems. I think you definitely need that. You need your strongest back line available, which is going to be Johnson and Taylor. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think you would take them lesser fit, but I think, as you said, I think Taylor's is just a knock, so I think he will be fine.
Yeah. So we've kind of walked our way into a predicted 11. So I think the defence does pick itself. Hart, Johnson, Carter, Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor. We're probably rock set on that. We need a wee bit of intel for the weekend ahead for Reo. But if Reo doesn't make it, then, does Iwata keep his place? And like we mentioned, or like I brought up earlier, also we had, we've got subs that are well tuned to, in terms of match sharpness and everything. And, Turnbull's played in this fixture before. Haksabanovic was unlucky not to get, a couple more goals in this fixture not that long ago. So, if Reo doesn't make it, does he go with Iwata, McGregor, O'Reilly again? I think he probably would.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, it depends on
Moy as well, perhaps.
What's that? Yeah,
Moy as well, perhaps.
If Moy's fit as well, I think if Moy's fit, Moy plays. I think it's an easy. I don't think O'Reilly's done enough to convince Ange, because I think ultimately it's about trust for that particular fixture to start the match for sure. And I think the guys that you've mentioned are, they're good enough to come off the bench with a bit of impact, but to start that match,
the finishers, the closers,
yeah, they're obviously very important as well. But I just think that when you're at Celtic Park, it's going to be a different tempo to the previous game at Ibrox, and this is just full expectation now. Like the expectation from Celtic fans, as is just that this is going to be a comfortable win. I know that like in the Scottish media and everything else, it's seen as like a 50-50, but generally amongst Celtic fans, I'm really getting a sense that they smell blood here. They smell that this can be a 3-0 match, and I'm not so sure I'm fully on board with that. I think it can be for sure if we get. No, I'm not. But and the only reason is the team selection. If Hatate plays, if Hatate or Moy play, I think it's on. I think if we're missing 2 of them, I think we'll still win, but I think it's going to be a lot harder. And I think we need to be smart about how, as I said, how we deal with their 2, their 2 wide players, or their wide players in general. But yeah, I would probably go with your view that if Hatate doesn't play, that it will be Iwata. I think he would just go with that, give McGregor that little bit more freedom, McGregor, I think, in those games is in he's in his own zone anyway. So I think organically McGregor would just track back and
no stopping him. You just be captain in the derby mode, where he's just been everything to everyone.
Just bump into somebody just to make me feel better. So I think that I think he's just going to be in that zone anyway, where he will defend. But I think giving him that little space forward, I think he's just one of those players, isn't he, McGregor, where he thrives on that pressure. Remember that game against Ukraine at Hampden, and granted Scotland were poor that day a few months back, the playoff to go to the World Cup.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the best performances I've ever witnessed from McGregor, ever. And it was backs to the wall. Ukraine were, a little bit better than us. I wouldn't say it was that much better. But McGregor was just colossal that day. So I think when it does come to the bigger fixtures, he definitely does raise his game. So you're going to get that from him. And I would like the third player in there to be Moy, because if it's Moy, then it's definitely a Wata. If Reo doesn't play, I said this before, that I don't think the manager trusts Turnbull, and I really do believe that. I don't think he trusts him, and I think that in a fixture like this, which this is expectation time, this is the opportunity to kind of put the nail in the coffin, really, if you like, because we win this and it's the league's done, really. There's no way back from that, surely.
You would think so. I'm just having a wee look through the last kind of couple of lineups and stuff. I don't know. Like, I know what you're saying about O'Reilly and the preference for Moy or whatever, but I think, like, looking ahead to this game, I think this could be a big game for Matt O'Reilly, and I think he's probably odds on to start this game. I think if I was to pick a team right now, I think it would probably be O'Reilly, McGregor, Reo. It's probably, I think if I was to bow to your logic on when the injury happened with Hibs, maybe they keep him for this game as his return for the final part of the season, etc. Then I could go along with that. But I think O'Reilly playing 75 minutes in the last game and coming off in that kind of swaft that we normally see, the triple sub, is normally the Kyogo, the Reo, and then whoever else he fancies to come off for like an O'Reilly or something, So I think O'Reilly's probably on to start, and I think like Rangers, for the good form they're in, there's no one in the league there's a lot of players in our team I could say this about, right? But certainly when it comes to their midfield and who they've got to rely on, in terms of defensive positions and all that kind of stuff, like they're not playing against any midfielders as big and as powerful as O'Reilly that are as good on the ball, So I think this is a game that O'Reilly could, if he turns up, he could really put a stamp on perhaps, and he might be the difference in there. So from a Sorare perspective, I think O'Reilly's a shout.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against that lineup. I really like O'Reilly, and as I've said before, and I think he's got a really good natural talent. I think there's his decision making in the last weeks, and I think like people, I think people have went a bit overboard on the criticism of him personally, because I think, unlike David Turnbull, I think he is a good fit for Celtic. I think he actually has attributes that are really good and helpful to Celtic and Ange, and I think Ange knows that. I think in the last, particularly that game at the weekend there, he was really off it in terms of his passing, and he was really off it in terms of his decision making. A lot of passes under hit, which is not really like him. Against Rangers, would I fancy him? Yeah, I would fancy him as well. I think I would definitely, if Rio was playing, I think it would also probably help him, where he's got someone taking the responsibility, because when he's, looking and seeing McGregor there, Wata there, recognising the Wata's not going over the halfway line, typically, so it's him, McGregor's kind of steadying the ship in the centre of the midfield. So really O'Reilly's recognising that I've got to take the bull by the horns here, and it just didn't happen for him. I think if Reo's on the pitch, it's a different game altogether. He knows that Rio just wants the ball all the time. You see him real shown for the ball from the fullbacks, like right into the third of his own half regularly. Rio's dribbling in his own half regularly, but not in a clumsy way, in a really smart way. I think if that was the midfield three, I'd be happy with that. The McGregor, Reo, and O'Reilly.
It feels like we're finally at the point of having like a nailed on front three. That it feels like the strongest front three. It feels like the manager's preferred front three. And for all intents and purposes, feels like the informed front three. It's all finally the same answer. It's never been a different thing. And, fit and available as well comes into that. And, for anyone at home that hasn't worked it out yet, it's probably going to be Jota, Kyogo, and Daizen. And again, with Daizen, a part of the Celtic evolution we've had this season, Mark, has also been like, who's going to own the left wing? Because Jota is definitely better on the left than he is on the right. And equally, Daizen is the same. But it feels like Jota's just better at being on the right than Daizen is. Like, you get more out of him. And then obviously you've got the freedom to kind of interchange them sides if you want to anyway. But that feels like the front three that will play. And I think that front three is good to go this weekend. Is going to be decisive, dangerous, no problem at all.
See, the thing is that, I think I agree with you incidentally that will be the front three, and I can't see any scenario where it isn't. I think if you look at Jota when he first came to Celtic, and forgetting your Sorare journeys with Jota, which have been phenomenal, and he is, as a Sorare manager, he's your obvious pick for Celtic as the forward card, because he just has massive AA, because he's a greed bot. He just picks the ball up and shoots all the time. He's an AA monster because he's selfish on the ball. When he first came to Celtic and we didn't have options in that position, he stepped up to it. I mean, when he first came to Celtic, I thought, this guy is just incredible. I'd seen him play before when he was in, it was at the under-21s with Portugal and stuff, and he looked good, but he did look a little raw, and he didn't look like he had the full execution of, the final ball. And there was the game, I think it was the European game, where he made that outrageous pass to Kyogo, which was like just he zimmed it with his foot right through. Kyogo took it in one touch and then out, inside his foot, curled it around the keeper. That at that point I was like, wow, this guy just can do everything. This season I've just saw a different side to him, which is like, starts the season off really well, scores a couple of massive goals, like technical goals from outside the box, and then the pressure's on, where he goes through games, certain games without getting goals or any real involvement, and he'll get maybe a stats padding from passing the ball to Haksabanovic, who'll then smash it in the, but you know what I mean, like taking away the Sorare and the, like the all these football stats sites out of the equation, and look at what it really, I mean, would you call him, Jota got an assist for that Bernabeu goal, for example, right? And there's not a chance in this planet he meant to assist Bernabeu for that, right? But that's just what an assist is considered, and that's just the way it is. But back in the real world, you're looking at Maeda in that same game, because the point you made about like the best on the left, I don't think Jota's anywhere near the best on the left. I think that on the left, Maeda's, in my opinion, is comfortably the best. See that there was the moment, the one where Maeda's beating the guy to to get to the back, not the byline, but he got into the edge of the box and then he cuts it back to Kyogo. See that move? Jota doesn't do that. He'd done that in the past, for sure. He was doing that before, but he's not done that in a long time. Like that, just direct dribbling, just using sheer pace to get past the man, not slowing the ball down and trying to use a trick. I mean, at tempo, sprinting down that line, exploiting the overlap and the space that's there. Because see when you remember when that ball's through and we're in that final third, it's pretty much a 2-on-1 situation. Jota, as I say, doesn't do that as much, and he doesn't exploit that space as much. He can do that. He doesn't have the pace that Maeda has to do it as often. But on the left, because Maeda obviously is more comfortable on his left foot, so when that ball's coming through to him on that side, he's feeling natural to get there. Maeda on the right hand side is difficult because he clearly doesn't feel comfortable doing that same move. So you're asking him to play with his right foot, which is clearly not as strong. So he's picking the ball up there, and he's, you can even, as an ex-player, thinking to myself, like, I've tried to cut on. You're already feeling uncomfortable because you're realizing I've got to cut onto that foot, and to have that same impact. I think Jota, I would probably agree with you that Jota has a better impact on the left than the right, but it's a decision. You've got to say, well, by putting Maeda onto the right, we lose him. We lose far larger parts of him than we lose of Jota, playing on the right. And I think Jota on the right can still be really effective. And I think he's clearly, and by the way, for Jota's standards, I would say this is like a not performing well Barron spell, but he's still getting massive scores and still, he's still playing really well. I just think his decision making at times can be quicker. I mean, watch Ange when Jota's playing. There was the one against Ross County. He kept shaking his head all the time as Jota's not playing the pass quick enough. He's letting the ball run past him. He's not, he's not playing the first time pass and holding it and trying to beat a man when he doesn't need to be beaten and things like that. I think those things were coming off for him at different periods before. And by the way, they will again, maybe this Saturday afternoon even.
That's it. Well, I think he's definitely in, like, just looking back at his scoring history there and how his second half of the seasons went for him, just since coming back from injury. Like you say, I don't know, I've been giving Jota the same criticism. It doesn't feel like he's ran a game for us. It doesn't feel like there's a match this season where you went, oh, Jota, that was the Jota show that day. He'd done everything, and he did score some worldies early on, right? Don't get me wrong on that front, but in those games, I'm sure we were winning like 9-0 and stuff like that, so it's not like, anyway. But I think this game, again, similar to what I'm thinking about with O'Reilly, and looking at the actual form that Jota's in terms of getting his minutes back up from his injury, like back earlier this season, the game could be coming at a right good time for him. And I think, like I said, that the kind of tip-off to chat about the forwards, like, for the first time, the best, the in form, the manager's favourite, the front three, yada, it's finally kind of all aligned to be the three that we're getting, I don't know, I think with Jota on the left, you just get a bit more guile. I think with Maeda, you're just exploiting his absolute extreme ability, for everything that he is. But I think with Jota, similar to Haksabanovic, when he comes into those forward positions, like, is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? Is he going to come inside? Is he going to play there's a lot that could happen. Whereas with Maeda, for the most part, and I'm generalising, of course, but you kind of know, the defender knows what they're up against. It's going to be a run to the line, and I better beat him in the race, or, maybe it's going to be a wee bit of catching me from the halfway line, or some other kind of stuff like that, if that makes sense. So, whereas with Jota on the right, you still get a bit of that, but you can tell he just doesn't vibe on the right as much as he does on the left. Maybe that's something to do with the Taylor and the Reo link up that you get on that left hand side of the pitch for us. Johnson and O'Reilly obviously really good on the right, but it's not the same, is it?
No, I think the thing is that I mean, when you say that about Maeda's game, it makes it like.
Yeah, not to oversimplify it, but I'm not too far away.
I'm coming from having my first experience ever watching Maeda was when he was at the Yokohama Mariners, and I watched quite a lot of him there, and he was almost like a striker at times, because he would just constantly get in the end of balls coming in from the right, but actually he was like a kind of left winger, really. Lazily, let's call him a left winger, but let's not forget the reason how he gets into those positions is just mental, physical attributes, speed, stamina, power. I think some of Maeda's biggest criticism comes from smart statistics, for example, big chance missed. So, but if you look at, I wish we could do the roll call of all of Maeda's big chance missed. I'd like to see them, and I can guarantee you that there would be a fair percentage of them that are chances that most players in that team, never mind in the SPL or other countries, could get near being on the end of, never mind score. So he's a victim of his own, physical condition, in my opinion, because he's actually so quick, and he's just got such an engine that can get into those positions that it looks like he's missed it because he's touched the ball in a high XG position that flags up the big chance missed. But
I've got the big chance missed statistics on Sorare data. Who do you think is a really easy answer, right? But who do you think is the number one big chance missed for Celtic this season?
Was it not GG?
He's not here anymore on this list. It might have been GG. Forget GG.
Him or Kyogo.
It's Kyogo. Who would you say is number two?
Would it have been Daizen?
It is Daizen. Can you guess number three?
Abada?
Oh, well done, by the way. Bonus points for number four.
All right, come on.
You won't get number four. Well done, mate. You've done the podium in order.
Number four. Who would number four be?
They've not scored a lot of goals.
It's not O, no?
No.
No, because
O'Reilly with 6.
O'Reilly,
6 BCMs.
Yeah.
Kyogo on 17, by the way, for anyone just listening.
I think yeah, I just feel like although having big chance missed aren't, Sean always actually says on the Sorare Odyssey with me is that big chance miss aren't an indicator that someone's, playing bad. It means that they're actually getting into those positions. And I think a lot of people naturally look at that and think, this is horrific. I think if you're looking at big chance miss and then you look at the goals and and the big chance miss are drowning the actual goals scored, then yeah, you should definitely be concerned at that point, because then it's a technique issue as opposed to, anything else. But yeah, I think that probably you would be looking for far more interaction between, those wide players and Kyogo, because ultimately you want your striker to score,
Yep.
I think, and as much as I'm a huge fan of Kyogo and fiercely defensive, that was a difficult game for him on Sunday against Ross County. I didn't think he performed as good as he can. At the same time, I mean, he's not getting service. That first half, he barely touched the ball. Second half, they had that horrible miss. You just want him involved in the game, much more. So, do you know the good thing, I think, is when we play Rangers, Kyogo and Maeda typically turn up. Like in what was it? Maeda scored in 5 minutes or something in the last game?
Yeah.
and that was just by sheer closing down them. And then I'm thinking, like, it's probably something that we haven't, really spoken about, because we just think about Rangers being a difficult team to play against purely because, the way that Rangers dismantle all the other teams in the SPL. But then at the same time, you think, well, Rangers are going to play different against us as well. They're going to come and have a go against us, which means that there's going to be bigger spaces. So I think this is going to be a game where you're going to see the forward players being, more involved, and arguably the defensive players being, far more tested as well. So this might not be the defensive stack game week that it normally is for your CCVs and Starfelts. This might just be an all out, get Kyogo, Jota, McGregor, or Hatate, Maeda, all those guys just, bombing forward. Because I think there's going to be good decisive potential for the forward players here.
I think I didn't plan this or anything, Mark, but just thinking about this kind of preview to the game that we've kind of went through, will we pick a preferred 5 if you're to pick a dream SO5 at the Celtic team for the weekend? I would probably Hart. I think Hart is probably nailed on, and you're probably nailed on with Vickers, aren't you?
Yes, I'd go for them 2 defensive cards on the defensive side for sure. First, midfield, probably McGregor, because he
safety
in this game, dueling wise, that your scores are going to come dueling wise out of him by and large. If there's any decisive, then it's going to be the icing on the cake. I personally think Maeda and Jota in this one, because I think like this is Rangers will come out that you can guarantee that first 10 minutes is going to be Rangers going frantic at Celtic. There's like, it might continue way longer than that, but that first 10 minutes guaranteed is going to be frantic, and there's going to be spaces in the counter attacks at pace.
Yep.
So I think there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be big chance missed in there. There's going to be
big chance created.
Going to be big chance created, but there's also going to be. I think as the game slows down a bit, then you're going to see more opportunity for Jota. Who's going to have that position to, take possession on the ball longer, work it in the box for the other opportunities. As Rangers eventually will have periods where they'll just sit back, soak up the pressure, defend deep. But I think by and large, it's going to be a game that's going to be far more open. Particularly as you say, the way Celtic play with the full-backs bombing right up, the varied. Ange isn't going to change that style. So you're going to see Beale's going to be telling his Tillmans and Sakalas and, the wide players exploiting them, get them pinned back. So, when they're high up the pitch, they're just going to be picked off as well, the same way. So probably mine would be McGregor, Maeda, Kyogo. Possibly Maeda, Taylor. Possibly.
I would probably go for O'Reilly. I'd be going big on this one because I think O'Reilly's more than likely to start amongst some of the guys that are questionable. And I think if he gets a decisive, he's on for 80 plus. And then I think the head would tell you to pick Maeda and Jota because they just will get more of an all-around score than Kyogo will. But I backed Kyogo to have a big score and a hat-trick against Ross County, and it never came. And I don't know, I would back the wee man to have a big game at the weekend. So, and I'm captain Jota till I die on Sorare, so I'd have to go with Jota and Kyogo in front of O'Reilly. But for anyone out there that does hold, by the way, I think this could be a great game to have Haksabanovic in a wee cheeky team somewhere, as well as O. I think the bench will play a huge part in the final scoreline in this match, because I've been to a few of the derbies recently, Mark, as you'll know, since Sorare's been on and all the rest of it, and I don't care how good the beginning of the match is for Rangers or their starting 11 or how much they think they've progressed. When we get to the last 15 minutes, they're in no man's land. They're never in that territory in a match on any given game week or match day or whatever, whereas we are all the time. Those guys coming on we called them the closers, the finishers earlier on, you know, but Turnbull, Haxa and O, when they come on at 75, they are fighting for their life every match, you know, fighting to get a spot in the next match, you know, so I think if you have them, they're a good shout.
I think O and Haksabanovic would be the two that I would go with as well. I would say they definitely will be, you know, be able to produce those big moments. Turnbull obviously does as well. I just think it's more likely to come from one of them two in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, Watt is a strong pick as well. Probably, maybe a safe pick if you're not. If depending on by the time this goes out, by the time you hear it, if there's any pictures from training and such, as Mark was mentioning earlier. But in the absence of any up to date info on the status of Hatate and Moy, then if you have an Iwata, then definitely keep him at the ready, because for a defender card in this match, you know, playing in midfield, he could score. He could get he could win all sorts of duels and tackles and all sorts of crazy stuff, final third passing and whatever. So there's going to be a few cards that could actually make some good stories this game week. I'm looking forward to it. Just to close off the show, Mark, have you got a score prediction for the weekend?
I think 2-0.
2-0 to the Hoops.
2-0. I think 2-0 with Celtic. Yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough match for Rangers. That pressure, they've got no fans at the ground. It's going to be a tough, long day potentially for them. I don't want to get too overconfident, but I've not seen enough from Rangers to really, really concern me. I think the only big concern I would have is Tillman. I think he's been their best player lately, but I think if Tillman plays on the left, then we've got, you know, Johnson, who physically could bully him.
Yep.
If he plays in the right against Taylor, I'd be more concerned. But pace-wise, I think Taylor could do well matching him up. But yeah, I think that would be my only real worry would be Tillman. But apart from that, yeah, 2-0. How about you, man?
It's going to be a sellout crowd, as you say. All Celtic fans. There's a wee video on the Celtic YouTube saying how amazing it's going to be. There's no away fans and how the access to the stadium's going to flow and all that good stuff. But I don't think it's going to be 12-on-11 like we think. I think it's still 12v12, Mark, because they've got a man on the pitch as well wearing a different strip that might help them out. So I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet in this game. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they don't get some favourable cards and all the rest of it, particularly because they don't have any fans in attendance officially. But I think it'll be 4-1 to the Hoops is what I'm going to go. I think we'll score. I think we'll score a couple quite. I might get 1 or 2 in the first half, but I definitely think the subs will make a big difference in the last 15 minutes. We'll get some fireworks to finish the game off, and I just don't see us getting a clean sheet. Just the way the refereeing has been going this season, you know. So 4-1 for me.
I'd take that. That sounds good.
Reigning decisives. That's it. Good luck this game week, Mark. Good luck to everyone watching. Hail, hail.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, mate.